Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space, created weekly, is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Excited to have you here this week because it is another race week. Not just for me, but I know for several of you that are traveling out to the Colorado area that are already local to the area. We've got Colorado DecaFit coming up this weekend. And so I've been getting a lot of requests on, can you talk about race week preparation? So we're going to chat all things race prep. So get excited about that. But first, let's go ahead and do our quick shout out of the Becoming Your Strong moment of the week. I am going to shout out my client, one of them that I train at Pursuit. And this woman, you guys, when I talk about overcoming, she's literally overcome and has seen it all. She's dealt with things like fibromyalgia and a lot of really tough physical feats. And she just has no quit whatsoever. And the reason why I wanted to shout her out was not just because she's seeing results, but because of the journey she took to get here and the vulnerability that she had to ask for help. She realized that if she ever wanted to hike in the way that she's always dreamed of hiking, being able to go up crazy vert and make it to the top of these insane peaks and live her life in that way, just to do things that she genuinely wants to do, she couldn't try and do it alone. She had to get help. And that's when she came to Pursuit, and that's when she found me, and she has been all in on the process. She has, of course, has been sore. There have been days where her schedule and the way her body feels hasn't always aligned, but she still shows up. And she asks the questions, and she puts on her learner's mentality cap, and she just puts in the work. And I'm just so proud of her. The other day, I was having her train some rotational squats, and guys, she can barely squat. Like, this is how far this woman has come, is like a body weight squat is something that hasn't really been accomplishable yet. And she about did one or two by herself. And I almost started tearing up because it's like, this is what it's all about. This is why I love doing what I do. But when you ask for help, you finally start to unlock doors that you've been shaking on the handle for so long. So this is your call. This is your wake up call, your reminder, whatever it is, that if you are sitting there on the cusp of achieving big things and you just find that you can't get there, you're just stuck, there's a block, it's probably because you're not allowing for yourself to receive. And that receiving is all about allowing for help and resources and support to come into your life. So this might be your chance. This might be time and the opportunity for you to reach out and ask for that help, whatever that may be. All right. Now that we've got that past us, speaking of help, I'm going to give you guys as much information without obviously overloading the podcast and your ears. I'm going to give you all the information that I can that I feel is helpful if you are prepping for a major race, specifically that week before. Now, obviously, I come from the more DECA backgrounds where the time domain is anywhere from a 10-minute race to like a 45-minute race. For some people, it's an hour if they're newer to the sport, especially for those DECA fitters this weekend that are new to the sport. Of course, I specialize in that. I have dabbled in a little bit of high rock stuff. I'm going to make this as generalized as I can, but also give those extra special tools to some of those people that I know that are racing this weekend. So doesn't matter what you're racing. I think this will be helpful for everyone, just to lay that all out there. So what I want to give you guys help on is the training that happens the week of the race, the nutrition that needs to happen the week of the race, and how to prepare your mindset the week of the race going into the race itself. I think those are the three most important areas to really touch on. So let's start off with the training piece. And I want to make this very clear that the big concept we are trying to hit home is that there is no additional fitness that can be gained the week of the race. So there is zero need, you guys, to be doing a ton of volume and a ton of super hard workouts, because all you're going to do is you're going to empty the tank and you're going to try and recharge the day before, and then you're going to tank the day of because you have nothing else left in the tank. You already emptied it out, right? So there's nothing additional that's going to happen. So there's no reason to sit there and fill your schedule the next couple of days with all of these hard workouts. Now you're probably asking, okay, so what do I do? How do I make sure that I do enough to stay ready, but also not enough to overdo it and potentially hurt myself on race day? The focus of your training the week of the race should be all about what is going to build your confidence, yet still allow you to get to the finish line healthy. Healthy is the key word here. So when I think about this, the big picture is sharpening the axe. It's those small things that, again, are going to allow for you just to sharpen up your craft and to build your confidence of like, okay, I'm firing, I'm feeling ready. I'm just going to let it rip on race day. So let's talk about this in terms of RPE, which is rate of perceived exertion. What should that look like the days leading up to your race? It should be easy to moderate at most, okay, with maybe a sprinkle of intensity here and there. And as an example, to give you an idea of what that really looks like, let's say you're doing a long aerobic session, right, where you're on the ergs, you're on bikes, whatever it is, right, you're doing cardio. Maybe in the middle or maybe right at the end, you sprinkle in like 30 seconds to a minute of just intensity where you rev up the pace, you get your muscles and your body working a little bit quicker, a little bit more intensely, and then you pull the plug, right? Just giving it like a little sprinkle here and there. That is okay, but it should be easy to moderate for those days leading up to it. Now, an example schedule that I will give you, and this is going to be a little bit more fit towards my folks doing DECA, whether it's the strong, the mile, or the fit. An example schedule that I typically will give out to some of my athletes as well as myself is I will do any lifting sessions. Like if you prefer to lift the week of, which is, I would say lifting is kind of one of those, some people like to do it, some people really advise against it. I would say if you're doing it smart, where you know that you are not going to lift yourself into a hole and make yourself super sore for the rest of the week, then great, amazing. You just have to know what that kind of lifting is. For me personally, it's lower reps, moderate to somewhat heavier intensity on the actual weights itself. But I do that at the very beginning of the week, like very, very beginning. Like I will not go past Monday if I'm going to lift at all, because that gives me Tuesday all the way through Friday to recover if for some reason that I didn't lift in a proper way. I also don't do a ton of new lifts. I definitely don't lift for endurance. I keep it very vanilla, push, pull, squat, maybe a little lunge here or there, and it's just few reps, couple of sets, just keeping the body firing, not trying to gain anything additional. But that all stays at the beginning of the week. So for example, Monday could be an easy lifting session, and you follow that with some agility practice. Again, sharpening the axe. Maybe you want to work on your box step overs. Maybe you want to work on your burpee pace. If you're running this week and if you're doing the mile or the fit, maybe you do 160 meter repeats. Maybe you do some 500 meter repeats, right? Again, all staying within that easy to moderate effort, but just getting your body primed for what you're going to do. Okay. Tuesday, I typically will do an aerobic day only, where you flow through the different machines that you're going to use. Or you could even practice dialing in your race paces on the machine. So if you know what your race pace is going to be on the row, maybe you do some 500 meter repeats on the row at that pace with a minute or two of rest in between. Again, trying to keep down that intensity. Same thing on the ski, same thing on the bike. I do that all the time, just a race pace dial in for my girls, where I say we're just trying to focus on efficiently hitting it without going over the top. Wednesday is an agility and practicing transitions days. And if you need to sim out anything, like for example, I'm doing a race this weekend that's going to be teams. And I'm going to pick certain parts of that race I'm going to sim out just to get some more information and gauge out, okay, this is the pace that I might need to go at. So this might be a day where I have a little bit more intensity than any of the others. That's okay. I'm not going to make it an intensity that's 30 plus minutes long. It's going to be something that's like a quick 15, 20 minutes where I hit what I need to hit, I gain the information, and I move on. The rest of it, again, is just continuing to sharpen the axe. I'm working on those transitions in and out of the row, especially if I'm doing it with a partner in a race. Like, how do I get in and out efficiently so that they can get in? If you guys are splitting certain machines, really any transitions that you feel like are sucking up some of your time, those are the things that you need to be practicing, okay? So that's going to be a Wednesday. Thursday is going to be active recovery. Maybe it's a full rest day. You could do a lot of mobility. You can do a little bit of cycling, a little bit of walking. And then Friday is going to be your shakeout day. I used to do it opposite, where I'd make Thursday kind of like a shakeout day, and then Friday would be a total rest day. What I've noticed is that when I have a shakeout day before I actually do the race, I tend to feel better. I tend to perform a lot better. So I'll leave that up to you of how you do that. But I've seen, from doing both styles, that has been the most success for me, has been making Friday out more of your shakeout day. And your shakeout day is going to be like some intervals, right? Like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, easy to moderate pace of the different stations that you're doing, right? Maybe a little bit of running. It's not going to be anything super crazy. I'd say like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at most. We're just trying to get the systems primed. We're not trying to rev the engine before it's time, okay? So that is training in a nutshell. Again, big thing to hit home on here is there's no additional fitness that can be gained. So you need to do the things that are going to build your confidence and keep you healthy all at the same time. Now let's move into nutrition, because you could put in the best training block in the entire world. You could have tapered correctly, but if you don't have good nutrition, it could totally wreck everything that you put into this prep. I'm being so dead serious right now. And any nutritionist that focuses on performance will tell you the same thing, is your fitness can only fitness as long as it's fueled. So you have to take this seriously. And if you don't, remember when I said asking for help? This is the time to ask for help if you don't know what this looks like. But here's what I'll give you at a high level. Based off of my past few years of racing and working with nutritionists that focus on performance, is that, of course, your nutrition is going to be very dependent on the type of race that you're doing and the time domain that you're working within. So, for example, long running races like ultras are going to need a multi-day carb load because you're working for a longer period of time, versus a single race that, like, for example, Deca Strong, that typically ranges anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes for some people, depending on the level, doesn't necessarily need that, right? So they maybe just need more of a good like carb load the day before. Obviously not something that's super overboard, but just something to store a little bit of extra glycogen for all of the adrenaline and the actual racing that comes the next day. But they're not going to require a 3 to 4 day load prior to that. Now, let's say this though, if you are doing a Deca weekend and let's say you are doing multiple races, like 3, 4, 5 races, especially in one day, you may need to add an additional day of that carb load. So instead of just the day before, maybe it's 2 days before, right? Just enough to give you some extra glycogen storages, not to send you underneath the table feeling like super bloated and crappy. Okay, that's not what we want. For my Deca folks this weekend who are racing the fit, your main focus, I believe, especially if you're just doing that 1, maybe 2 races, is just to focus on what you're doing the day before. And the easiest way to put this, don't worry about the macros, the amount of grams, unless, again, this is a very serious race and you want to make sure that your fueling is on point. I would add an extra source of carbs to each one of your meals, and that should be enough to suffice. So, for example, if you normally eat some yogurt and a banana in the morning, maybe add an additional fruit like an apple to it. My favorite like carb loaded based breakfast is a bagel with some peanut butter and jelly, and then I do my cottage cheese and I'll add either a banana or some additional granola that has good carbs in it. Okay, so just adding that additional little source there to it. So you're going to do that throughout the whole day to your different meals, right? Maybe if you don't snack, you add in a snack that's a fruit or something that's carb-based. Just an extra serving here or there, I believe, should be more than enough to suffice. And then it comes into the really important day, which is the race day itself and what you're doing for nutrition-wise that day. So we're going to break it down to a couple of different pieces here, because depending on the kind of race, again, that you're doing, these different things will matter versus some won't matter. But what for sure matters is before the race, right? 2 hours before the race, solid meal with high carbs, moderate protein, and low fats. Okay, I usually try and keep fats out of it as much as possible because fats take so much longer to digest in your system. And when that's the case, it tends to cause a lot of pain for those of you that don't digest well. That's most of us. We don't really digest our fats very well, at least not fast. So having those in the system when you're trying to do high intensity of activity, typically not a good thing. So we want to keep those really low. 30 minutes before the race, right? So we just had our 2-hour meal. Now 30 minutes before the race, we want to pop some sugar. So whatever that might look like for you, whether that's something that you sip on, whether that's something that you eat, like a piece of candy, dried fruit, a honey stinger, whatever that looks like, pop some sugar 30 minutes before the race just to top off those glycogen storages. Now, here is where it gets really important too, is if you have a race that's over the 30 to 40 minute mark, you're going to want to have some gels, some electrolytes on you to be able to take at that halfway point or at that 30-minute mark. Hydration, you guys, during some of these longer races are super important. Like, for example, some of the people that are going to be doing the DecaFit this weekend that are new to it, they're going to take closer to an hour. So at that 30-minute mark, getting in some electrolytes, getting in just like, again, popping a gummy or a gel of some sort will literally save you on the back half and make you not want to pass out and faint. I'm not even kidding. So if this is something that you're new to, I highly recommend it. Now, I last year was, I think my very first DecaFit ever was like 40 minutes. Could I have used something at the 30-minute mark? Probably, but I was also so dang close to the finish that I was able to push through that. So you just have to sort of decide what you're able to do. But I would honestly say for those of you that are newer to the race, I would highly recommend having something on hand with you, whether it's stashed at one of the stations, put in a pocket, maybe you wear a waist belt. I had one of my clients pick up a water bottle that attaches to their hand so that he can sip it because he sweats pretty profusely. And I know that he's going to be really needing those salts and those electrolytes and sugars as he goes throughout the race. Just be smart about what you're doing during the race so that way you don't tank on the back half and potentially not finish, okay? After the race, this is also important. If you were doing multiple races, make sure that you immediately get in some carbs and some hydration. Again, dried fruits are always my go-to. They're very easy to digest, and they're just a great way to get quick sources of sugar. I would also say too, even if you're not racing, getting food in you once you start to feel hungry is going to be important, especially of that protein source, because if you don't fuel your body after you do a hard effort like that and you wait for several hours, you're going to feel like absolute dog crap the next day, okay? You're going to be sore, you're going to feel lousy. Like, just take care of yourself and make sure that you get some fuel, some good, healthy, lean fuel back into you, okay? Let's see. Recommendations that I will give on nutrition in terms of what kind of products I'm using. I sort of talked about a couple of them. I've always been really big on honey stingers for race day because I've used them so much that I know that they sit well in my stomach. I primarily use the waffles over the caffeinated performance chews just because I struggle personally with caffeine. It doesn't always sit well in my stomach. It kind of turns it upside down. Not saying that that's a you thing, but that's just for me. I tend to go more towards the waffles about 30 minutes before the race. I also am really big on dried fruits. So like my dried mango, I make it here at home, or again, anything that's at the store that's, you know, a brand that you trust is great too. Dried fruits are absolutely wonderful. My other thing that is my go-to is G1M Sport. It is an endurance carb-based sort of power that also has electrolytes in it. I sip on that in the hour leading up to a race, and it is quite literally life-changing, especially if you are one of those people that cannot eat before a race because of nerves. I know that that's a lot of us. So maybe sipping on something is more of your more up your alley. So I'd say G1M Sport is a great product. I have done Liquid IV in the past as well too. It's got a lot of sugar in there. It's just whatever you prefer that you feel like you can stomach. Okay. The big thing that I will say though, nothing new on race day or the day before. You need to try out all of your meals. You need to try out anything that you plan on eating for like fuel race day wise, like during a training session. So if you're like, I'm going to do a long aerobic flow today, I'm going to test out eating this beforehand and then eating this at the halfway point. That is a really smart thing, because if your stomach goes south on race day, that's going to suck. Okay. So make sure you don't do anything new. Make sure it's already been tested and you feel confident that it will go well in your system. Okay. Last but not least, let's dive into the mindset piece. I hope that this is helpful. I know I'm kind of just rambling on, but hopefully this is helpful. This is the stuff that I love talking about, clearly, because I have a mindset podcast. So this is where I think it starts to get good. So in the days leading up to your race, what I want you to do is put on your learner's mindset cap. And you should already have this on throughout your entire training block, but sometimes it gets lost in the weeks leading up to it because it's getting more real that you're actually going to be doing the thing that you've been working so hard for. Strap it back on if you feel like you've lost it. Instead of beating yourself up for the paces you didn't hit or the things that didn't feel good, maybe your workouts didn't go as planned during race week, I want you to instead fill your mind with thoughts about what you learned from each of your sessions and how that will help you. So after each of your training sessions, what did I learn? Like, what is going to help me move the needle forward, not just in the race this weekend, but in future races? Like, what is the bigger thing that I'm building towards here? And what did I learn that's going to help me build towards that? When you change it from beating yourself up to how can I learn and build, oh my God, it's such a different experience. It's a more productive conversation with yourself. And that's where it also is going to lead into having conversations around celebration. So in addition to the learning, I want you to celebrate after every single session, not just about the PRs, the things that felt right, the things that went well, but everything that you overcame. So let's say you do a session this week and it did not go as planned. It didn't feel very good. How did you overcome? What can you celebrate about the fact that you overcame? Maybe you didn't feel your greatest. Amazing, right? Like now you just put that proof in the bag that you can do hard things when you don't feel great. Guys, I cannot tell you, like when I have had, let's see, what race was it? There was a race where I was feeling it was the morning of World Championships. I woke up on the strong day and I was like getting ready to vomit. I felt so sick. I did not sleep well the night before at all. My system was in a tizzy and I was up to do the strong ruck first. And this was the race that I was like basically picked to win the whole dang thing. And I didn't even know if I was going to be able to step up to the start line. But I just, did my thing. I worked through it and I won the thing. And then guess what? It wasn't that race that helped me. It was that the following race after that where I went and did the ruck for the first time this season. And I, again, woke up feeling like crap that day. And I was like, I've been here before. I know how to do this. Like being able to celebrate the ways that you've overcome certain things, those will show up for you later. Those will be the things that you pull upon when you really, really need them, when things are not going well on race day. Because here's the thing, you guys, race day is never perfect, ever. Things are never on time. You're going to miss certain parts of your warm-up. You're not going to feel your greatest. You're going to wake up with a new pain, a new ache. Rarely do you ever feel 100%. And so being able to work on your mindset around those days and how to push through in a smart way and celebrate yourself for how you overcame, all those things are going to add up and they're going to be incredible sources for you to use on the actual day itself. The other thing that needs to happen in terms of mindset is visualization. Before your training sessions, I want you to practice seeing yourself executing the thing that you want to execute. At night, when you go to bed, I want you to take one part of the race and I want you to visualize yourself actually executing the thing that maybe you just practiced from that training session, right? When you visualize, you build a pathway in your brain that makes the unfamiliar familiar. Your brain cannot tell what's real from what's fake. And so let's use that superpower towards our advantage or to our advantage. Visualize the way that you want certain things to go, and you're going to create the pathway for your brain to just take that when it's actually time. Now, again, I have mentioned race day doesn't always go as planned, and that's not only just the before, it's also the during. So don't just visualize the good stuff. I want you to visualize the bad stuff. And I know that this sounds so ass backwards, but I want you to visualize the things that you are nervous about happening, see them happening, but then follow it with seeing yourself overcoming, being able to tell yourself that cue of whatever it is, that mantra that gets you right back into the right headspace. And it gives you that extra little bit of juice to keep going, to keep taking steps forward, right? Visualize yourself overcoming. And now all the things that you're nervous and doubtful about, you could say, I've been there. I've experienced this. I visualized this. I know what to do. I've got the game plan. This is where I want to leave you today. Before the race, I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember what a gift it is to be here, to have put aside all the excuses and the fears that told you to not even try in the first place, and to instead step up to the starting line to prove to yourself that you can do this. Think about the story you want to tell and the person you'll be on the other side of this experience. Let go of the outcomes and let in the joy of just being able to live life full out. Trust the timing of your life and all the hard work that led you here. And when it's time, let it rip. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I hope this episode truly helps. Please be sure to send this to all of your friends that are racing this weekend or have important races coming up in the next few weeks. And I will see you guys next week after a weekend full of fun for another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. See you then.